Canadian actor Michael Riley lives in Los Angeles, but lately he hasn't been spending too much time there. That's because he's on location somewhere else, Guyana, Canada, and places in between. Michael Riley had the rare distinction of appearing in 3 very different films, screened at last September's International Film Festival in Toronto. Brian Johnson spoke to him at that time.
Michael, I think I've seen you in every movie you've made, but whenever I run into you, I never recognize you. I mean, are you a master of disguise or what?
No, the funny thing is, I end up growing I grow my hair and my beard whenever I'm not working. So if I have a beard down to here, you know I've been unemployed for a long time.
The first film I saw you in was Perfectly Normal. Now, in all your films, you seem to play somebody completely different each time. Who is the guy in this movie?
For me, I mean, when I first read that script, I mean, I give all the credit to Yves Simoneau, because Yves, well, when I first read that script, it was intact, and as you saw it, but the whole kind of operatic milieu that, and cinemagraphically that it was set in was all Yves' invention. And as soon as he started to describe to me, like for example, I don't know if you remember the scene where Renzo first meets Turner at night in the bus station, and Turner appears out of a cloud of smoke and he's dressed in his jacket. Well, when I read the script, that was, you know, broad daylight. Turner had come from Florida, so he had a Hawaiian shirt on, and it was a lot more just pedestrian somehow, kind of untheatrical. And when Yves started to tell me about, you know, the genre that he was going to kind of set the piece in, then and because his framework was going to be theatrical, it kind of gave the actors, and especially myself, being the central character, license to kind of be theatrical inside that. So he was kind of an enigma. You know, one of the images that Yves gave to me, he said, Renzo would be the kind of guy that if he walked past a gray wall, he would disappear. He's like a line, a black line on a wall. And so those 2 images really stuck with me. And as I said, because he was being very theatrical with the way he set it up, that's the kind of the way that I went.
Black line on a black wall. An English-Canadian, in other words.
Right, exactly.
A guy from Toronto.
A guy from Toronto.
Is that where you're from?
I was born in London, Ontario, but I've went to theater school in Montreal and then worked in Toronto for 8 years before I went to Los Angeles.
So how did you fall in love with acting? I assume that there's got to be a passion for this, otherwise people just wouldn't get into it.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably like a lot of people. My introduction to acting was in high school, and you're sitting in the library in grade 9, and we had to fill out a 32 credits in 5 years. Some wood shop, gym, and some guy beside me said, oh, take theater, it's easy. You lie on the floor, you make noises, and you get a credit for it. So I said, oh, great, theater. And that became, there was a woman named Kate Roberts, actually, who was my theater arts teacher there. And usually in high school, you know, you do Oklahoma every year, and the drama teacher is a gym teacher with a 3-week summer course in theater. But this woman had worked professionally, and from grade 9 to 13, in 5 years, I did 27 plays that were produced for the public. Sure. Ennui's Antigone, and I played Shylock on The Merchant of Venice, and the Orestein trilogy, and then You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and then so she really kind of, I mean, that's who instilled me with a work ethic and a, you know, and an ideal, and so that introduction was kind of all important for me.
Well, now here you are at the Toronto Festival of Festivals, and you've got 3 films in the festival, which is pretty unusual for one actor. You've got Mustard Bath, taking place in Guyana. You've got Because Why, which is another Canadian film, and something called The Making of And God Spoke, which is a mockumentary, sort of Spinal Tap meets The Player. Let's start by talking about the most controversial of the 3, perhaps, Mustard Bath. On this, you're playing a guy who goes home to Guyana after his mother's death. It's a very intense, very dramatic role, and there's been a lot of gossip about one particular scene in this film. It's a masturbation scene, and it's graphic, and I assumed that this was the real you, although I've since learned that this is not all of you, anyway.
No, it wasn't me. Just from a practical sense, it was, you know, in terms of getting an erection, if one can say that on television, at 3 o'clock in the morning in front of 60 crew people, that was kind of an impossibility. I thought it was appropriate, and it was a scene that, for a couple of reasons, you know, was never meant to be taken out of context. And I also think that one of the things, that, besides this kind of the psychological underpinnings of the scene, that the fact that it was, that in the first 20 minutes, it kind of, when Daryl and I were talking about the script, putting it there,
Daryl
and being
Wessick, the director.
The director, putting it there kind of legitimized everything you saw afterwards. So when you got to the amputation scene, or you got to any of just the emotional cathartic scenes, or anything that you saw after that scene, the audience is kind of, you're now prepared for anything.
Okay, this cutlass been fired up. You fired that up? Okay, you guys have to hold him very, very steady, okay? Move your hand. So just support it on the bottom. Okay, here, take this. Take it.
What about the making of And God Spoke? This is a movie about movie making. It's, as I said before, it's like Spinal Tap meets The Player. How did you get involved in this one?
That was totally kind of a fluke. I came in on the last day of callbacks for that. It was an independent feature that was being shot in LA. There's a magazine called Drama Log, which is kind of this Actor Now magazine thing that comes out in LA. And it has, you know, actors, proverbial out-of-work actors, look through and find out what's shooting. And my wife was sending a tape to something that was described as kind of a Spinal Tap of the independent movie industry, and so I just sent along a tape, and they'd seen it, and so it was just kind of fateful that I landed that. But
as I've said, your physical appearance keeps changing from film to film, and in the making of And God Spoke, I kept seeing Steven Spielberg in you.
Right, there was a sound guy who said to me, he said, you know, and this is like a week into the shoot, he says, you know, your character Clive reminds me of. I said, who? He said, you are a cross between Steven Spielberg, Woody Allen, and Rupert Pupkin. I said, yeah, okay, that's apt, I suppose.
All right, come on, coffee cups down, cigarettes down, makeup out of there. Let's get in the boat. Let's start to look amazed. Jesus is coming soon.
Wait a minute. Is this it? What do you mean it's just it? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that it? Is that all we had?
That's what you ordered. You ordered 8. We got 8.
Okay, just a second. Oh.
Stand by, please.
Helen, how many disciples does the script say that we need?
It just says his. His disciples sit in the boat.
Yeah, well, I think there's more than 8. Just a second. Well, Marvin, how many disciples are there?
I don't know.
Okay, look.
Why didn't we-
Okay, Matthew, Peter,
Paul, Mary.
Mary's not a disciple. That's a folk band. Jesus Christ. Okay, how many disciples did Jesus have?
You got a Bible?
Bible. Does anybody have a Bible?
We need a Bible here.
Bible. Right? 10 disciples. That sounds right. You're Catholic, right, Scooter? Okay.
Yeah, it was 10.
It was 10. All right. Okay.
Was there a lot of improvisation involved in this? It looked like there was.
Yeah, there was. There was a lot of improvisation, and he had a lot of, there were improvisers and stand-up comics and actors, all, and performance artists. Everyone was kind of in that melting pot, so it was up to the director to kind of lasso us into one style. And I think that's the important thing about documentary style, is it requires a kind of hyper-real acting style. And you know, one of the things, for instance, is you have to develop a relationship with the camera, unlike normal, this kind of the fourth wall thing of 35mm, a regular feature shoot. You have a relationship with the documenter that's just as important as the characters. And so it's an introduction for people who don't to see behind the scenes, but at the same time, there's a lot of layered in-jokes for the industry to see. A lot of people, like you could hear when a gaffer or a grip would laugh at something that was on. There's a lot of that kind of material.
Let's talk about Because Why. This is a Canadian film shot in Montreal. Who are you this time around?
Alex, he doesn't have a last name, which is a clue to the character. I think that it's, Because Why is closer to commedia dell'arte than it is to romantic comedy for me. And that's what really, especially after doing Matthew, the psychological drama, that was the next thing I did, and so that was totally liberating to kind of throw all that away. But it sits in a very kind of classical framework in a lot of ways, and I saw Arto Paragamian, who is the director. I saw a number of his films that he got awards for, his student films, and he's very Fellini influenced, obviously, and his sense of time and the starkness of his frame and things are all a part of his kind of style, which was fun to sit inside because it's got that commedia very physical aspect, but it's also kind of a poignant story woven underneath, so.
May I speak to your son, please? Sorry. Shouldn't have scared them like that.
No, it's impossible to keep them in line. They need a little scare occasionally. Can I get you a towel?
Oh, no. I have one.
Oh. Would you like to come in?
Oh, no. I have a friend over.
Oh, I see. You sure you don't need a towel?
No, I have towels at my place.
Well, it was nice meeting you, and I'm sorry again about the kids.
Oh, no, that's no problem. Thank you for the towel.
So you're living in Los Angeles now. You're working between Canada and the United States. Do you care whether you're making Canadian films, American films?
No, I just go where the work is. And the great thing, to wave my Canadian flag for a few minutes, is that the best scripts that came across, you know, the desk, as it were, last year were these films, the two Canadian films.
Mustard Bath and God Spoke, and Because Why will be seen across Canada in the upcoming months.